Hey everyone, welcome to Love Your Body Podcast. On today's episode, we have my dear friend Will Russ, owner of Clean Eatz. And I mean, there's so much to tell you about you, which I can't wait to get into. But as we're sitting here, you're like telling me about your mental health journey and all these things, which is great. But first, I want to talk about this is the first time you've been over.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, how long have you known me?
A long time.
And we've been trying to hang out. We've been trying to like do stuff. But this is like what's so funny with my entrepreneur friends. It's like this is our hangout.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
When you finally pinned me down to a time where I would commit via my
Yes.
assistant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's always.
Will's looking forward to coming on. I was like, I know this is you. like I know this is, which was totally fine. And I totally get it. Because that's what I have Anna, my assistant, do it sometimes as well. And when I just am like, I have no capacity, someone else look at the schedule, figure it out for me.
Make the decision for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is great. And it's a
Yeah.
beautiful day. And when this goes out, this will be like not the anniversary, but today's actually my 7-year anniversary of Dani Fitness.
Nice.
So I'm super excited. And it takes me back to, I'm trying to think when we met. Because wasn't it like 2018?
Fitness Expo when it was in that big Vanderbilt building.
Yeah.
And you ran up to me and were like, I'm Dani D Fitness. I have this event. You want to sponsor? And I'm like, whoa. I'm like an overload and like sensory overload at this. And then and then after that, I was like, over the years, we've just like connected. And especially in the last year, I think we've really gotten to know each other at a deeper level. So I really appreciate that.
Oh, yeah, of course. Well, I definitely wanted to make, I mean, like I told you, after kind of my bodybuilding shows and stuff, putting things in perspective, I was like, I just want to be as intentional with people as I can, actually have real conversations. Like, I just had like my birthday. I think you were out of town for that, but I actually had to sit for more than 5 minutes with my friends and talk about life.
Yeah.
And like, when people are listening to this, they're probably like, oh, yeah, I hang out with friends all the time. It's like, but I don't get to. So for me, it was just a moment where I can actually like, have a deep conversation with you and then, and then go to somebody else and like not feel like I'm rushed or someone's waiting on me or another agenda or a schedule. And it was really beautiful, so that was super cool. But I know we met at the expo, which was super cool. That one was 2018. So that was when that was a year after starting my business and I was going to have my Find Your Fit Festival. And so I was really pushing to everybody, like, can we get sponsors? All those things. And that was awesome. But I remember after that, just like seeing you all over, like with everything. It was like either these little commercials that you do, or you're like in the face of on your Instagram, and you were just very present. And that's like what I always have aspired to do. So I've always loved watching you do that because I feel like it's more real and authentic, because you believe in your mission and you believe in your message. Yeah. And so I want to take it back to when and why you started with the franchise. Like, why you got Clean Eatz? Like, how did that start?
Yeah, well, it's all over my body. It's all my clothes are Clean Eatz clothes. I started as a customer. I was in a family business that we sold, I guess it was 2017 or 16. And, but I had started as a customer with Clean Eatz. I was 360 pounds. It was like when all the craft breweries were opening in North Carolina. So I just wanted craft beer and truffle fries and just was totally out of control. I mean, and I'm a pretty indulgent person as it is. I just have always eaten my emotions. And so a couple of times I'd started to try to lose weight. Didn't like I'd do it. I'd diet really hard, or I would get really extreme with something, and then I would fall off, and then I'd blow back up again if I even lost that period. And I'd been to residential weight loss clinic at one point. I mean, because I was at 365 pounds, and it was a lot. And got out of that, lost a bunch of weight there. Then went and did a semester seat, lost more weight. Then still, when I got comfortable and cozy again, I gained it back. And so at that point, there was a Clean Eatz, and I think it was like the third or fourth store that opened at that time. And I went to that. And since I was such a foodie, I was like, no, not for me. And
really?
Oh yeah, I did not like it. It was, and it's a lot different now, but I was just so conditioned to eat at, such a indulgent level. And And so, my friend had actually encouraged me to go back. He's like, give it a shot. And so I started going to that, lost about 65 pounds doing that, was transitioned out of family business, was kind of rudderless of like, what's the next thing, and trying to figure out, which way do I go with this? And so did a bunch of business proposals, did about 6 or 7, realized I'd have to sell a lot of coffee to make over $100,000 a year.
Right.
Basically it's like, what do you want to make one day? And then you start dividing that times the average transaction. I was like, that's not going to work.
Right.
And so, I was, and it kind of all hit me. It was like, okay, Clean Eatz is working for me. And as a customer, like maybe I should do this.
Okay.
So.
And that was when was that?
I think end of 2016.
Okay. How old were you?
I was 29 because the day I moved to Nashville, I turned 30.
Okay. That's cool. So so you grew up in North Carolina and then you went to college for,
I was enrolled in college.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that I always went.
Okay.
But I went to started East Carolina University.
Okay.
School was not my thing.
Yeah.
It's something I always struggled with. And so I ended up getting pulled out. That's when I went to the residential weight loss place, kind of got my life in order. I mean, when I was in college, I just wanted to party all the time.
Yeah. Okay.
And so then got my life together, came back, started working in the family business, and then ended up finishing like at a satellite campus of a university. So I got it.
Okay. So you got the degree.
Not in the traditional sense, and it took about 8 years, but like got the paper. So that's what counts.
So what was the major? Like what did that end up being?
Organizational development and leadership.
Okay. And so do you feel like that actually helped you within this business, or have you just learned everything on the way?
I think I've learned a lot on the way. I mean, there's definitely things like understanding hierarchy of needs and like and understanding different principles that applied to it. But so much of it, I mean, I look at like when I was in college, I just didn't get it. I didn't understand like, okay, why do I care about accounting until I actually had to apply it.
Right.
And the way it was being taught versus the way it's used now, like they were showing us spreadsheets. Well, I learned how to do accounting because I have QuickBooks and I had to dive into it and I had no other option. And so I think it gave me a good base layer, but I think so much of it is because I started working when I was 13 in the business, worked up that way, worked in sales at an early age and like business to business sales. And then it was just, all right, let's do it, figure it out along the way. And I'm constantly, still learning and throwing stuff at the wall.
Oh, for sure. And we all are.
Yeah. Just see what sticks.
And exactly. So when the decision was to, basically like whether you stay at your family's business or to like move on your own, like could you have stayed at your family's business for like ever or?
No, the type of business it was kind of at its maturity. It was storing documents and shredding and document scanning. Well, we were really good at scanning. So most of our business was scanning. So once you scan it, there's nothing else to scan.
Yeah.
And then there's a value left off of the contracts that are in the warehouse. So it wasn't an option. I mean, I wanted it to because we had 50 employees and I was like, there were a lot of women who worked for us and a lot of these women I grew up with. Like they'd worked for us 15, 20 years. But the reality was, at that size of a business and all the acquisitions that were happening, it just didn't make sense. Yeah. And we needed to cash my mom out so she could retire.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So you said 16, you moved here. Is that right?
2017.
2017.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So you're here, you're 30 years old, and you have this business. So where was the first Clean Eatz? Is that the Nashville one? Or is
okay. Green Hills, cool. Nashville was the first one.
The OG.
Yeah, I got here. I was probably here about 9 or 10 months, started looking for sites. Anybody coming to Nashville or who's been here, like it's a sticker shock. It's like, you look at your small town rent, it's one thing, and you look at the rent on all the websites and you're moving here.
I can only imagine.
And you're like, how the hell am I going to pay for this? This is more than my mortgage back home. Like,
well, and tell me that, like, how did you kind of like, did you have like a amount saved up and you were like, here's my down payment, like buying a house? Is that how it kind of is? Or did you have to get a loan and then you're like, run it through? Like, what do you do?
So before I moved out here, like 2 years before, I had bought a house because I thought I was going to stay there. Well, they always say buy the cheapest house in the nicest neighborhood. Well, that's what I did.
Okay.
Did a bunch of cosmetic updates.
Yep.
Was able to sell it for like $125,000 more.
There you go.
Yeah, split that with my partner at the time, so I had some money in the bank there.
Okay.
And then I had a little nest egg saved up from out of the business, and then we got a line of credit. So I pulled a line of credit and paid that down in 3 years. So it was like it ended up being probably about 250, 300 to get it set up. Like,
Okay.
and it was a former restaurant space. So I was able to go into it a lot cheaper.
Yes.
Now, knowing what I know now, I could have gotten into it cheaper. But, you know, when you open your first restaurant, it's like, oh, it's going to be this and it's going to be that. And it's this fantasy. And so, you know, the fantasy cost you a little bit. So was here 9 months, found this broker was like, hey, you want to go look at this building? I'd passed the ad so many times on the internet. I was like, oh, hell no. I did not move to Nashville to have this dream to go put a business in that thing.
Yeah.
And because at the time it was, the shopping center was called Bavarian Village.
Okay.
So the style of it was like a Bavarian Alpine
Right.
village.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And so that's what was online. So when I pulled up to it, like the facade was getting done, but there was all this fencing around it. I was like, nope, not doing that. I came here to live my bougie dream. And like, you know, this is not the dream I had in my head.
Right.
And so, but the only other option was really like, okay, go outside of Nashville. I'm like, I'm not also picking up my life to be Clean Eatz suburb. I'm being Clean Eatz Nashville.
Correct. Yes.
So I went in it, and it was a mess. It was a Thai restaurant for 35 years.
Okay.
And it had just switched ownership. It had never opened and closed down. So it was just like passing all the issues on. So I was working remote at the time for a company that bought ours, and I was in sales. And so I was able to move out here, work for them. The day I signed the lease, I told my boss, like, hey, dude, I'm sorry,
Like,
but
I'm out.
I'm out. This is not for me.
Yeah.
Because, you know, when you go from a business where you can walk down the hall and fix things to a multinational corporation, totally different. Yeah. So I was like, I'm ready to get out.
You're like, I got to be all in.
Yeah. So I lived off some of that money from the sale of the house. And then, and basically the first year ran every bit of money down. And I mean, I remember the first year I had like 10 grand left in the bank account. And when you're in a business with a $7,000, at that time, $7,000 rent and $10,000 payroll, I was just like floating on credit cards at the end of the year to get to the next one. And then it, you know, started to turn around as we got
So when
the second one.
Yeah. So with the Clean, so okay. So tell me this, because it's a franchise everybody knows probably if they're listening and they're in different states. Like it's all over. So with that, like when you started, I guess because I don't know how the franchise model works. Like, do they were like, hey, you have to abide by these certain things. Here are already some of the recipes. Like here's like how, or are you like, this is just what it is, or like did you mimic the North Carolina one? Like what was that?
So I mean, every franchise is going to be different. I think, and it just depends on where it is in the life cycle. Okay. When a franchisor decides to franchise, initially they're just trying to get people to buy a freaking franchise and open it up. Like it's like, do whatever you got to do to get it. You know, what they would say about, you know, who they allow in the beginning versus after they've had some experience with it is different and what they're looking for. So when I got in, I think Nashville was number 32. Okay. They did have a brand guide at that point to say, these are the colors that go on your wall. This is, you know, our recommendations on X, Y, and Z. And you know, here's the menu. So there was some standardization.
So parameters,
Yeah, but a lot of them, like the first ones, they all went into second generation restaurants. So it was, here's the colors, here's, you know, a general template of what you need, and it's kind of plug and play for what you had. So that worked out really well. I mean, but the challenge with that, when you go into higher units, you need them to be consistent because, you know, you got to have them on the same equipment. You got to have them on the same process. Right. Otherwise, you can't teach anybody outside of their own trial and error on how to execute it.
Well, and for those listening that don't know about Clean Eatz, like, so it is at its forefront, like it's a meal prep company, right? Was that how you would say it? Like meal prep, or would you say like, so basically, so they know that like, it's not like you could have just thrown together any foods. Like this is like, there's a standard healthier, like better, organic. Is that kind of the...
So meal prep company, a healthy cafe, it's macro based. Our biggest thing is volume and variety. So, you know, we've got to push out volume. In order to do that, we've got to do it at a low cost so people can eat more of their meals from Clean Eatz. Variety, you know, it's got to be things that people want to come back and eat. And then macro based, you know, things are weighed out, portioned, and
which, if for anybody that meal preps knows, that takes so long. So the fact that you are literally like, I'll watch something and you'll say, yeah, we got 1,500 meals ready to go, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's just like a Monday. Right. Like you're just like cycling in and out. Like it's so like efficient.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
It's a lot of food. I mean, it's organized chaos a lot of the time because it's so much product that comes in. I mean, because the meal plan menu changes every week.
Right.
So you've got to contend with all of that. And then you've got all the frozen meals that we do.
Yep.
And that's midweek. And then on the weekends, we're prepping the meal plans.
Right. And I don't think that people even realize that because it's like, I send my people like to Clean Eatz and I send them, all over. I'm like, hey, just so you know, when you go to this place, there's going to be some meals in the fridge. This is how I rate it. Like, because I've tried all of them. You know what I mean? So I'm like, this is how I rate it. This is what I like, or this is what I like about this, or whatever. And so with yours, what I like is that one, you can get fresh meals, or you can get frozen, like so that you can, and they can last, for longer because some people don't actually eat their meals and they say they're going to, and for my clients, and so for them, I'll be like, and yours mimics more like I'm eating out. For me, because I'm super basic. And for back in the day, when you talking about before I even met you, when I first was starting out, and people were like sponsoring and whatever and doing meals, it was straight up like chicken, rice, and like 2 pieces of broccoli. You know what I mean? And that's the meals that I got. And so I was only used to super basic, and then seeing yours and being like, oh, look, this is something like I would eat out. And like, so then I knew some of my clients who were like, I will not do the plain. No, absolutely not. And that's all they knew of meal prep. So I really commend you in that because I do think you stand out in that way, and which is really cool.
Well, and the way you're talking about, that's how it started.
Yeah.
I mean, it was started by bodybuilders and they wanted a place for them and selfishly, and they admit selfishly that them and their friends could go eat out. Yeah. But the reality is eating like that and selling like that isn't going to pay the bills. Like you got to serve things that people don't feel like they're on a diet, but they can still achieve the same result.
Right. And that's why you were so attracted to that when you first got started, right? And that's how you were able to lose your weight, feel successful, and it wasn't like you were like killing yourself every day and like choking down food that didn't taste good. But yeah, so when you first saw, I wanted to go back to when you first said that you saw that spot because I grew up here, right? So I grew up in Murfreesboro. And so when I would come to Nashville, right over in that area before all of that was there, like I'm trying to remember when I would have passed by that area, the pavilion or whatever, like a million times, but like I didn't eat Thai food. So like I didn't go to that restaurant, but because there used to be a bookstore down the road, and there used to be Spells, which was a dance store where I would get my ballet shoes every year. And it was a fond memory, like going over there, and even the Green Hills, like plaza before I don't even think the movie theater, maybe the movie theater might have been there when I was a kid growing up. Maybe not, because it's old, Regal over there. But like they had different restaurants and things that my parents and me would go to, and this like bookstore and stuff. But yeah, because I was just like, I know this whole complex had to be here, but I just I feel like we just passed by there a million times and never, you know what I mean? So it's just kind of cool to think back, because now I'm like, all my friends are over there. Like I go get my massage right above you for Eye Relief Therapeutics, and then Rush Chiropractic, get my chiropractic adjustments, like send my clients, and I'm like, it's a one-stop shop. So you kind of like, not lucked out, but like I know when you're like hesitant to go in there, it's like y'all really have a solid group of like people coming in that area.
Yeah, and what's interesting, I mean, when I got into that space, they weren't there. A lot of us have come in there since it got redone, and so it ended up being a blessing. I mean, honestly, I love all of our neighbor friends there. I mean, there's businesses that have left that shopping center and come back. Yeah. There are, people who got in there when I was there, and so it does, to me, I mean, the business neighborhoods the businesses that are around there that are the neighbors, I really do appreciate, because
it worked out really well.
It's honestly, I mean, I'm friends with them all. It's pretty supportive. We talk about business. We talk about things going on. And so it ended up being a blessing. And it was cheap rent in Green Hills. And because I don't have direct road frontage. So it was a good move. So I would always encourage somebody, even when it may not be your vision, like the end result can be really ideal.
That's awesome. And I know that's going to be scary, because people listening to probably are like, and even myself, when I think about like wanting to buy another house and stuff like that, it's like, like how much, you're like, well, it's really like a location, it's like, it's got to be the right location, but then I like this type of style, or I like this. It's like all those different things, and it's interesting because with like all the different things in Nashville, Green Hills, I mean, has come up even more. Like, it's like, it was always bougie even when I was young. Like, that's like kind of where like the ritzy things were, you know what I mean? And so, but even more so now. But even the gym that I trained out of before using the LYB, I mean, like their lease is coming up. And so it'll be, I mean, I believe they're not renewing it because that man that actually owns it is going to get a lot of money, because there's like a new apartment complex right there and they need parking. So it was like, it kind of was like edging him out over the past like couple of years. And so that's one of the reasons I decided to leave. But it's like, that building's been there for 20 years and they're about to like tear it down. You know what I mean? Just developers and stuff like that. So, what I love about your model and everything like that is that you haven't gotten not complacent. Like you weren't like, okay, I got the one, I feel good, we're just going to rock this out. You've always been aspiring to do more. And so, which has been awesome to watch. So you actually just expanded to Murfreesboro a couple years ago, right?
Yeah, August 2020.
Because what was that before? Because I went to whatever that was before.
It was Zoe's Kitchen.
Yes, because I was so excited that there was a Zoe's Kitchen because I had seen it in Franklin when I was there. And I was like, because the borough, for those who don't know, had nothing growing up. Nothing. Like there was a Subway. That's what we had. That's what I rocked with. I was like, I'm so healthy. Okay. You know what I mean? And it was trash. And so now when people are like, I live in the borough, I'm like, no, you got all the resources. We got a Clean Eatz now. You got, I think Core Life is over there still, maybe.
Yeah.
You got, there's Munch.
Kava is opening up over there. There's a lot of restaurants going on over there. And the amount of apartment buildings and hotels behind the store over there is nuts.
Yeah.
I definitely saw them the other day and I was like, it's like, because it's just a barren field. Yeah. And then like a few months later, like, wow, there's 5 stories of something. I was like driving up the back of something. I was like, oh, this is actually really good for me.
Yeah.
There's
100%.
like a hotel there and a massive apartment community there. Yeah. Like, okay, I'm into this. I can,
So what was that like when you saw that? Because again, that was already a restaurant. So did you kind of go in the same mindset of like when you went in the first one, or were you like, it's going to be totally different this time? Like you're like, I want like a restaurant already established in there, like before,
So, I mean, I'm like an emotional roller coaster. I have all these ideas and I run in the direction of the idea. And sometimes they work out and sometimes they don't. Yeah. And I think, the fantasy is like, oh yeah, I'm going to go build this thing out. It's going to be great. It's going to have this. And so I'd love to drive around and just like look at what's available and like property wise, whether it's houses or commercial real estate. Every time I've had a commercial broker, I've pretty much been like, I go and find it. And outside of the Green Hills store, that was the only one where I was like, you can push me into that.
Okay.
But I was just driving around and it was after a lot of things had shut down for COVID around that time, Kava bought the Zoe's Kitchens and either they converted them from Zoe's or Zoe's. They converted them to Kava's and then some of them they shut down. So I don't know if the intent was to ever convert it, but it was right after COVID. So there was this burrito place that was out of Austin that opened everywhere in Nashville pre-COVID.
Okay.
It was like they had stores in Austin and then they had Nashville, which is such a spread.
Yeah.
So one of them shut down on the end and now that's where there's a pizza place down there now.
Blaze Pizza or whatever now.
Oh,
maybe not.
I forgot the name.
But it was like
Slim and Huskies.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So I went to look at that space and was like, oh, this would be good. This square footage will work. And by that point, the Zoe's Kitchen was already out, but there was paper on the windows. So the landlord was like, well, this one just got rented, but you can go look at that one. And I walked into it and I was like, oh yeah, this is better. I can make this work.
Nice.
And the landlord over there was he's just the best landlord. Like anytime I ever think about opening another store, I'm like, what do you got, Brian? Like, I love working with you. You are not like, you handle stuff. You don't,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So which is great. Yeah. So is it like are each of these like 5-year leases, 10-year leases?
I think they're both 5-year leases with 2 options to renew.
Okay.
So 2 5-year options.
Okay.
But I think for me, if I'm going to sign a commercial lease, like I really don't want to sign a 10 or 15. I'll do it with an option to renew. If I need an out, I need it, but it's also leverage. Like if something's going on in the space, because when you take a commercial space, they're like, you're responsible for all the plumbing up to the walls, all the doors, all the windows, you're responsible for the AC units. If you got somebody above you, you might be responsible for certain things. I mean, there's just a lot of gray area when you take over the liability of a space. So to have that 5-year mark where you can kind of leverage it, okay, my AC units are going out or I'm going to have to replace this. I'm not re-signing until you do that because...
Oh, okay. I like that.
Yeah. So to me, it gives you some leverage. It gives you an out if you need it. I'm a commitment phobe. So, I like to have the option to renew, but have the option to run away if I need to and go hide.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, so you have the Murfreesboro and then the Green Hills. And then Is there another one in the works?
Not right now.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
No,
All
we're
right.
gonna sit
Rocking
pretty
with
right
those
here,
two.
right now, and get
Yeah.
to next year, and see. So
Okay, I love that. And it sounds like you have, I mean, like I said, a great footing and great spaces
Yeah.
because the borough is up and coming, and it already is. Like it's so much, and so many people I feel like who are in Nashville are living in Murfreesboro. You know, that's where they live, but then they're traveling here and everything like that because they can't afford to be in here. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
So I love that. Thank you guys so much for listening to the Love Your Body podcast, for subscribing, following, liking, sharing with everybody that you know. I appreciate it so much. For those of you that have been ordering Fight and drink Fight on the daily, I appreciate it. It is that vitamin, 0-calorie, nootropic health drink that anybody can have. And I use it, daily, and it helps me to be able to crush my, goals and everything as well. And, we are going to be having some events coming up. We'll have the Fight for What You Want challenge, as always, coming up in the fall. Make sure to stay tuned for that. And you guys, if you haven't yet checked out my book, How to Love Your Body Throughout on Amazon, make sure to get it. You can get paperback or Kindle. And I'm so excited. And so thank you so much for your support. And make sure to subscribe to the Patreon to hear all the exclusives.
Hey, this is Will with Clean Eatz Nashville and Clean Eatz of Murfreesboro, and we want to thank you for tuning in today to the podcast. Clean Eatz is a meal prep company and healthy cafe. We've got a 50% off deal going on for listeners of this podcast. Enter FIGHT50 for 50% off your first meal plan up to 10 meals. You can log on to cleaneats.com/meal plan to order your meals.
So I was going to ask you real quick. You started a business, you uprooted your life, you moved to a new state, new city, all that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. What was like your mentality like? Was there an intimidation factor there? You chose one of the biggest, fastest growing cities in the country. And going into food, I've never owned a restaurant, obviously, but I've worked for a long time in food service. It's a very tough business to get into. There's a lot of places, there's a lot of options, that kind of thing. So the combination of all those things, you move to a new state and city, you start a new business, leave your old job, and the city and state that you picked is a pretty could be intimidating, I guess, if you've never been in that environment. So just kind of wondering if there was any of that there and how you pushed through that.
Yeah, I think going back a little bit right before that happened, since my whole life, everything I'd known for the past 20 years had been kind of that security blanket. Everything I knew had been really flipped upside down. I was pretty rudderless. I knew I wanted more. I didn't really know what, but I also needed to go somewhere. When I was in sales and working in the business, I had a lot of accomplishments, did a lot of things. And like I'd go to our trade convention and I would, talk at 21 years old to like a group full of boomers about what I was doing and about sales and how to like close these big deals. But like all the accomplishments felt like, is this really my accomplishment, or is this like a little nepo, like because of who my mom is? It wasn't. I mean, yeah, I probably wouldn't have been selling in that kind of position to be selling those big deals, but it did help me cut my teeth. So I got to the point where I was rudderless, needed new direction, needed something to look forward to. And I needed my accomplishments to be my own. I needed to go and feel like, oh, I can make this on my own merit with nobody knows who I am. Nobody knows who my family is. And then I knew the second part of that, I was like, I don't want to just do one. I mean, I want to have multiple units.
Yeah.
And, but also it was just like looking at the world and like kind of starry-eyed, like, oh, I can go do all this stuff. And I think Nashville, it just presented an opportunity, one, because it was popping off then. I mean, it still is, but it was just a different time. And so I saw a lot of opportunity with that. There was only one in Knoxville at the time, and I wanted to go somewhere where I could be multi-unit, kind of put my flag in the ground and then spread from that. And I also wanted to go somewhere where I could drive home if I needed to, and it's culturally and weather-wise similar.
Yeah.
There's no beach, but but it seemed like a good place for a fresh start.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I love that. So, we had actually gone on a walk here recently, and we are kind of talking about like just all the things, all the awesome things. And so when people are listening to this, I know that I've dealt with it. And I think you have too, but it's kind of like, do you ever feel like Clean Eatz is kind of your identity? Like everyone knows you as like that person versus just Will? Or do you feel like you kind of balance it well? Like how do you?
I don't think I balance it well.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't balance it well.
I know, I don't either, but like we work towards it.
Yeah.
But it is hard, right? Because I mean, like you came in wearing the shirt. Like I wore my shirt today because again, it's like, you know, it is a part of us. Like we believe in it so much in that mission, and no one is going to hype you up like yourself. Like no one is going to spread it like you know?
Right.
And I'm sure you've learned that with like having employees and, you know, you have all that too of like, this is still your, like, yes, they're in charge of things, but like you still have so much pressure on you to make sure.
Well, and I think the key thing is I think there's people who are going to hype you up and who are going to do things similar to the way you are. But the added difference is the pressure isn't necessarily behind they don't feel it in the same way. It's just like when I was working in our family business, I would come to the table with all these ideas and like, we should do this. We should change the logo. We should do this. And my mom would be like, whoa, you need to calm down. And I'd get so tweaked out. But now on the other side of it, I'm like, I sound like my mom now because I'm like, okay, no, like that's too much. Like I got X, Y, and Z happening.
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, and people literally will message me on Instagram and be like, hey, Clean Eatz, like to my person. And I'm like, yeah. So even though my name isn't Clean Eatz, I still get called Clean Eatz.
But it's so true. It's so true. And like, it's, And do you know, like even up until recently, like it was probably like, I don't even know, like maybe a year ago, as early as that like certain people that were like close friends of mine were like, wait, you have a personal account? And because I was neglecting it because there was just too much. It's like, I'm already posting on this one. I'm already trying to do this. I'm trying to grow this. Like it was no time for like, it's like, and I'm very much like this whole, I even deal with this now where I'm like, obviously, like, you know what I'm doing. You see it in real time. Like there's no question, but like, I know that you still have to explain it, but I hate explaining myself. You know what I mean? For things that I feel like people should just understand, right? Like I'll talk to you all day long about how you should love your body. And like, cause I feel like a lot of people don't understand that. But when it comes to like, when I'm working out or this or that, I'm like, guys, come on. Like, you know, like it's just how it is. You know what I mean? And so sometimes I have to sit there and be like, okay, no, actually like go on your Danielle Dyer account, Danielle_Dyer, for anybody that wants to follow my personal, and be like, no, she actually does other things besides just work all the time, you know, and like showcase that. Like, I think that you just went to, where did you just go? Utah? Or where was it? You went on a trip.
Colorado.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. And like, what?
I only post when I go on vacation now.
Yeah, but that was a cool, that was a cool like thing, and it was good to see though, because I think that so many times, and we talked about this too, I think on our walk about like how, you know, it's like you'd said something that it kind of stuck with me, that it was like, basically like, yes, certain people have like certain problems with stuff, but like you're like, my problems are just more like, I don't know, like you rationed it like money wise, right? Like when you like someone has like these problems on this level, but I'm like having like thousands of dollar problems, right? Like with stuff,
hundreds of dollar problems versus like not hundreds of thousands, like tens of thousands. Yeah, it's just an amplified amount.
But how people see on the outside, like, man, he's doing great. He's got 2 locations. He's crushing it. Da 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 da. He went on vacation, right? It's like perception, and you're and you're like, but you know what I mean. So it's like that perception of it, and that's where I had a guest on the other week ago, and it was the same thing. Like she had like moved away, and I was like, man, like she must have crushed it. Like she stepped away. Like it's awesome. She was like, no, I had nothing, and I had to leave, and I had to go live with a friend. But in my mind, I'm like, she made it. All right, she's out in the Nashville scene, and then she came back, and I'm like, oh wait, you know what I mean? So it's like it's an interesting thing because I think that so many times people can look at it of that way. So that's why I feel like actually posting the personal and be like, you know what? Like, no, I've actually been having like health issues, and like I'm not invincible, but like I'm alive. And I went on a walk, or I went to the movies, you know what I mean? And trying to put that out there.
You've leveled up that you're able to share that vulnerability. Like, go you, because it's I mean, because really I have to give credit to Bree for all the social stuff we do now, because I used to do it so much, and then I just got so burnt out because I was focused on so many other things. But then people would be like, well, you're doing this, and you're doing this, and you're doing this. And I'm like, you see all these pretty versions and snippets and 30 seconds here and you know, photos that a lot more goes into it, and you don't necessarily see it. And but yeah, I think it's a lot of people see that as your own personal brand, as that's what it is, and you're so lucky. I mean, and I think especially like recently now, talking with some people who I used to compare myself to and like hold myself like, why can't I have that? How did they get to have those? And like, what are they doing that I'm not doing?
Yes.
And it kind of all came full circle recently. And I saw that, that wasn't the case. That's not, and it's like the last thing you see of somebody is kind of what sticks in your mind of, what they are. So if like somebody posted something a month ago and they're doing really well, and that's the last thing you saw of them, you're still thinking they did that. Like, and I think, recently when I saw that come full circle with, I was like, oh, okay. Like, no, it's not like that. That content is stagnant. It's not really relational to like what life is like. And I think, to your point, people do need to kind of share more like, hey, this is what I'm going through. You're not on an island on your own. Like,
like, no. And that's why I really am adamant about like, and I've always done that of like posting just in real time and trying to, but it can be overwhelming. But it's like, I would love, in the movie Along Came Polly, have you seen that with Jennifer Aniston? It's old. And Ben Stiller.
I have seen it. I don't remember it though.
Philip Seymour Hoffman. And he like hires like a crew to like follow him around and do like a docu-series on him. He's like, Enos is doing a thing on me or whatever, a piece on me. And then he like comes at the end, he's like, I hired them. This guy, I pay him like $20 an hour. You know what I mean? But it was like, I was like, that is my thing. I wish someone could just document it all for me so I didn't have to do it myself. But it is one of those things where like I actually get enjoyment in like the minutia of those things.
Yeah.
What I don't like doing is the whole like, in terms of the marketing, which is like what's nice about Bree doing your stuff is like I've tried to have social media people before do my stuff for me, and it is just I don't know I don't like being told like, and you probably get this too of like it's good to have advice and kind of like direction, but I don't like being like, you need to do this, and this. And then I do those things. And then they're also like, they tear you down because they didn't like hit. And you're like, well, I did everything you asked of me. And it's like, literally, like, I don't know what else I can do. You know what I mean? And I don't like to, and I'm like, that's not me. And you know how many times I've had to preach so many times to people who understand the mission and they get it and be like, I'm not that chick on social media. Well, that's the only way you're going to get more views and more engagement, whatever. I'm like, no. And I've done those things and tried them and they didn't work because they weren't my, like, you know what I mean? Authentic to me.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think a lot of those people operate in theory.
Yeah.
And they've been taught what to do and how to do it, or they've seen somebody do it. Yeah. But it's just like Brie and I will see, like, people will come in and they'll be like, we hire me for social media. We do this, or we're this agency. And like, we go and look at theirs and like 300 followers, like 5,000 this. And I'm like, this is literally your job.
Right.
And you're not getting above this. You're coming in here branding yourself saying, I want $1,200 or $600 a month. And literally you're not even breaking 6,000.
Yeah.
And you want to give me expert on it or advice on it. And I think I used to really believe it. And then I had some experiences where I was like, this is a marketing major who comes in here talking to me about theory and it's not really compelling. And I think it's better to have that like in the moment, you know, what's actually happening, what's, you know, because I've spent so much money on marketing. I mean, and I just realized it wasn't getting me ahead in that way. I'd rather spend it on things we show up to.
Yes.
Or
events.
You know, things that have meaning, not throwing it into the Facebook ads abyss.
Right. No, I totally get that. And I will say, like, you know, especially when first starting out, like, that's why, like, I don't want to ever act like I know everything, but I'm like, I've tried a lot of things. I've done a lot, you know, whether it was going to events or having, and you've done this too with, like, you know, sponsoring people, you know, athletes or whatever. And like, so you try things, see if they work. You know, I've tried to do that with Fight. You know, there's so many different things. And it's like, you just have to continue to keep, you know, working on it to see what hits and what doesn't and, you know, whatever. So it can be frustrating. But speaking of your trip and like getting away and everything like that, I'm glad you did that. So it was, did it feel like a mental reset? Did you
went to Colorado?
Yeah. What?
So Brie and I just had this conversation this week. She's like, because she's going to Costa Rica, and she told me like 2 months ago, and then I didn't realize she was going to Costa Rica and it's happening next week. But she had told me she needed the time off, so it was just not understanding. And she goes, well, I mean, whatever, you take like a week off like every month or this. And I'm like, you know what? Like, do you know what happened last time I went to go on vacation?
Oh my God. gosh. What? Like, was it just,
Might as well. I mean,
did it just not work out? Like,
it was just, I got a lot of calls.
Okay.
A lot of stuff happened.
Stuff hit the fan.
So, I mean, it's all kind of funny stuff. It's like I borderline want to talk about it, but I don't necessarily want it to be recorded.
Oh my gosh. Well, you can say whatever you want for an hour.
It was just, it was a lot. I mean, it was like day one, I'm standing in line like, oh, we're trying to get discount codes out. And, there's probably a few hours of that. We had sent discount codes out for the first time and to some influencers, throwing things at the wall, see what would work. Yeah, so that was fun. And then the next day we had some more drama unfold with people's personal life outside of the business. So it just kept going and going and going.
Yeah.
And so it really wasn't a break. So it's hard to, like, the trips are great, but even then, like, it's still on. The business is open 7 days a week. It's a big business.
100%.
It's not like there's layers, but there's not that many layers to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a good trip, but yeah, that's the thing when we're talking about vacation. Like, you remember X, Y, and Z happened while I was on vacation and spent all this money. So yeah, it's
no, and that's what it does suck, because it's like, even to hear that, coming from you, because it's like, I think a lot of people are thinking that, once they get there, once they have the employees, or once they whatever, but that's not the case. You're always still managing it, because it is, your business.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you have a business, but you're providing a job. And as long as people are coming to work, you're still providing the job. Yeah. And, that's really what that's what my job is to provide jobs to others. So when the business, has issues, ultimately it's going to come back to you. So there's no, I wish I could be one of these people who sits on a beach on a laptop and works remote. I envy these people who are into all this passive income. Like, go you. I'm so happy for you. But that's not the reality for a lot of people, or for most people. I mean, somebody came in the other day, and we'll get people who come in time to time that want a franchise, and they're like, well, they walk in, they see all this stuff everywhere and all these freezers full of meals and everything's lined up, and they're like, I want to do this. Yeah. And this guy comes in, he's a super nice guy, and I'm always trying to be nice, and some I'm nicer to others. If I don't think they can cut their teeth on it, I'm kind of a dick. I'm just like, yeah, you don't want to do this.
Right.
But he's like, yeah, how much does this cost? Like, and I'm just straight up. I'm like, it's $52,000 for your franchise fee. It's 6% in royalties, 2% for marketing. You need to have X, Y, and Z if you're going to do it. I recommend going to this. And he was like, okay. And he's trying to open one outside of Nashville. Okay. And he's like, yeah. And it was like, so you're going to quit whatever you're doing now? He's like, oh no, I make good money now. I'm just going to hire a manager, and I want some passive income. And I just was sitting there thinking, like, dude, like, look around. Do you think this is passive? Do you think that this is mailbox money? Like, this is not a Subway. This is not, a fast food restaurant in the 90s or early 2000s. I mean, this is way different. And so I think a lot of people don't, they just don't get that. They get, and social media kind of propagates this idea, like these Grant Cardones, like sell, scale, bigger, bigger, bigger. And I've fallen victim to it. But at a certain point, your pieces and your everyday, like, waking up and having present moments is far more worth it than, running yourself ragged and just not enjoying it.
Yeah. Well, I know that when we had talked before, you had said that, basically your heart has always been about others. Like, just, truly, because you're like, I got to make sure they have these jobs. I got to make sure that they're taken care of. And I think that so many people would be like, no, I'm just going to pass it over to somebody else, step away from it. And if they lose their jobs, they lose their jobs. You know what I mean? Or whatever. And so I think that that's a testament to your character and what your mission is. You know what I mean? So it's more than just providing, food and stuff like that, and helping people feel better and feel healthier. But you're also, in that position where you can create and help. I know it's not weighs on you, but that's huge. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think when I get into scarcity mode, I definitely get into self-preservation. And I think I just honestly have come out of that in the last 2 weeks, because I get so wound up and tight because there's so much going on. Yeah. And you just get into total self-preservation and you really can't, and you're operating on scarcity. But I think once you kind of get more present, get more focused, and then you realize, okay, what are you capable of doing? And you start to kind of look at, and you operate from abundance, you find the joy in being able to, do things for other, help in different ways, give back and contribute in different ways. And I think it's constant balancing act. I mean, it just depends on what's hitting you from what direction, which way you go.
Well, and it all comes down to keeping a clear mindset, right? Because again, you have been doing this since you said like 2016, 2017. So like, it's, again, we're both kind of in the same boat of like 7 years of business, right? And so, for somebody, listening, like, would you say that what's something that maybe you wish that you could do more of? Would it be like, was it therapy? Is it like having more time with your friends? Is it making more, like, how is that? Because also, you're also one of the people who, and that's not a knock on you, but like also is not married. You know what I mean? And we're both like, you're 30. How old are you?
I'm 37 and I'm not married.
37, that's
I don't have any kids and I'm failing.
No, you're not. But
kidding.
see, you're not though. But so it's like we can kind of like talk about like in that relational piece of it, because not that they have it easier. I'm not saying the people that are married that have business or whatever, but there is a different kind of support. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there is. I mean, I look at couples that I see that are running a business together, and I look at them, I'm like, wow, that must be nice. Like, that must be nice that your significant other's in there or your kids are in there. And just the way that you're able to grow a business when you've got, the bloodline. Because, obviously, like, if you piss your kid off, they're probably going to come back and they're still going to do what you need them to do.
Right.
So like there's an amount of pressure that you can apply that's different from somebody else who might have been there like a shorter term. Somebody longer term, not the case. I mean, and it also comes down to how do you treat people, and people aren't disposable. But I mean, it's because I think one of the challenges has been because there hasn't been somebody in my life that it's kind of eroded and my personal, because there's nobody other than me holding myself accountable to my personal time. And it's just gotten
health, fitness, business, all of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think for me, it's now working on, okay, I need to kind of draw this back in because for lack of having anything better to do, I mean, I like to work, but I also get to a point where I'm like, okay, wait, you got to chill. Like this is, you got to have a weekend back, whether that's a Thursday, Friday, or whatever that is. You got to have a 2-day block where you can go check out, not have to worry about it.
Yeah. Do you find yourself, do you know anything about like Enneagrams or like any of that stuff? Like, or like what personality type you have? Like, would you say, are you type A, type B? Like, are you?
I mean, I've done them like not recently, but I would say B, like very ADHD all over the place.
Wouldn't that be type A, or is that?
I mean, you're a business owner or whatnot. I don't know. You're an employer, so maybe type A is where I would lean, but I don't know.
Well, last night on an app, I diagnosed myself with extreme ADHD.
You said I have done them before, like 12 hours ago.
With me?
There it is. Why are you back on the apps? What are you doing?
It's a brain health app that I found. It does math and like different problem solving and like gets you focused. It's a healthy
She
app.
thought you did it.
Okay, I thought you did the dating apps.
I think it's like train your brain. Oh, no.
Okay.
It's like train your brain or something like that. Yeah.
I like that.
No, I got rid of all the social media, all the YouTube, all the extra stuff. And I was like, all right, you can have a game or two on your phone, but other than that, you need to like focus on life.
Okay, so go ahead.
I was just going to say, because we've talked about it with her before, but would you said that you look at couples that have a business together and you're like, oh, I kind of want something like that. Do you? Or would you rather have somebody that balanced you out?
Yeah, no, not now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I think, there's the fantasy we all have because we're exposed to something that we're like, wow, it'd be nice to have that. Yeah. Like, oh, that would feel good. Like, oh, that seems so effortless. I think certain couples it works great.
Yeah.
I don't know that, no offense, I don't think you could necessarily, maybe you could, but like, I think being so far within our own brands, it's hard to let somebody come in and then value their ideas and input at the same level because there's lack of experience of what it took to get there.
Correct. No, I definitely don't want to, again, whatever. Every time everyone's like, oh, that fitness trainer or whatever, I'm like, But here's the thing.
I've heard you say that before. You would rather have somebody
I'd rather
balance out the nonstop and balance out the.
I need like, and truly, that's why everybody is always like, oh, I bet you're like out like hiking on the weekend and you're doing this and you're doing that. Whatever. I'm like, no, I'm sitting right here. Like, and then even my client was like, wait, do you like going to the movies? Like, do you like that? Like, how do you sit still? I'm like, that's my only safe space to just chill because I'm totally immersed in the movies and like I love that. And that's how it's always been because my brain literally goes all the time unless I am in a theater or like at the Nightlight 615 or like watching on the screen. Like it's something about that calms me even more so than recovery stuff.
It's so funny that you say that because I just went and saw Deadpool and Wolverine last week.
Yeah.
And like halfway through the movie, I actually had the conscious thought of like, damn, I haven't thought about anything.
Yes.
In like an hour.
Exactly.
I was like, that's crazy.
And that's why I love it. And it really is like, and I've always said this before, it's like, it is my like church, you know, besides church, like it is like that moment where I'm not on my phone because I don't want to be disrespectful and I can just have 2 hours to myself versus if I'm sitting here, I'm like, you could be looking at your phone. You could be messaging that person back. You could be paying for that. You could be, you know what I mean? So it's like, I mean, I feel like I do have ADHD as well, but whatever. I just have a lot of ideas. I have a lot of feelings and thoughts and, you know, and things to accomplish. But no, back to that. It's like with the partner thing, somebody that has a healthy lifestyle is a must, okay? Because I got to understand it. You know what I mean? Like, like that's been always a baseline or whatever. But the actual suit of like having someone that's a trainer or whatever, it's hard for me to take them seriously, especially because I know like what I have put into my own stuff, you know what I mean? And a lot of the trainers I meet, it's just a very flight. It's like they're just in it for a second or it's a side thing or it's whatever. And when you give your all to something and then just to have somebody kind of like oh, it's like a side thing. And that's how then they start treating your business. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they don't take it seriously. And that's the biggest thing too is like, you know, especially when I would explain like, yeah, like loving your body throughout and whatever. And guys would be like, yeah, like cool. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I love my body. And it's like, but do you?
I don't want to admit I don't like my body.
Right. I mean, like, but it's like, they're like, can I kind of like my body? I'm like, okay, whatever. So it's just, yeah, I would definitely want someone more on the other side to like calm me down and like be able to just like sit. You know?
Yeah, I think, I get wrapped up in the fantasy all the time. Like we'll get exposed to something. I'm like, oh, that's what I want. I want to do this. I want to do that. And then you start comparing everything to this fantasy. And I realize, and I still, even now with what I'm about to say, I know that I do this, but I still have to bring myself back to, you need to get focused on how you want to feel in the end result. Like if it's the house, you want to buy another house, not, is this the perfect house? Is this,
Yes.
It's no, I know I want to buy a house and here are the things that I need to components, but I don't need to visualize the house. And because it's not, it might be a brick house because it's not a white brick house.
Right.
Doesn't mean it's out.
Yes, exactly.
And I think that goes with like, having a partner in a business. Like, yeah, it would be nice, but it's nice if you both start from the ground level with it. And, and I think it takes a certain type of relationship to do it.
Yeah.
Even starting at the ground level. Because I think there's so many versions of it where it becomes a push-pull and then they end up getting divorced.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think we've seen that for sure, like with a lot of people. And it does take that like type of couple and stuff like that. And genuinely, I want somebody that I can learn from in other aspects. Like I want them to be proficient in other things. You know what I mean? Like one of my girls just married a guy in finance. And I'm like, well, that must be nice. Like taxes on deck. You know what I mean? Like, but seriously. And I'm looking for...
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
But
like,
are you?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I already pay a CPA. It's fine. Be cool. But like basically, but to learn more. I mean, even like a more devout, like in his faith, like that has been on his journey and that I can learn from. Like that would be great as a Christ follower. Somebody who knows more about politics. I would love that to learn. Just like on things that I am not as whatever in, and so for us to compliment each other in those ways. You know.
Yeah, I'm telling you. Fight strawberry with a little cold brew.
I'm sorry. Wait,
like,
what? Fight with what?
Fight strawberry with like a little cold brew that was left over in this. It's actually really good.
Could be the new flavor.
Strawberry cold brew.
Okay.
Only with Fight by Dani D
gosh,
Fitness.
I cannot. That's what we need right there. Yeah, tell everybody. I need more Fight sales, okay?
I'll buy some of that strawberry today.
Oh, okay. Oh, what am I doing? We starting?
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna include that.
Oh, thanks. Okay, cool, awesome.
Include what?
Your ad for me. Thank you. He's not a paid sponsor, but
Let me get my ad voice on.
Right.
If you're looking for a wonderful new drink,
I love it.
try Fight with cold brew.
But that's what I'm saying. Everybody
Closer.
literally like
sorry.
literally like sleeps on it, like, you know, and then everyone will drink it, and then they'll be like, oh man, it's just so good. I'm like, yeah, like I have it on auto ship now. You can literally buy it, so it's delivered to you every month. Like there's so many ways, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm again, that's kind of what we talked about, like throwing things at the wall. I mean, like I'm doing it. I'm gonna keep showing up. I mean, these 5Ks. I'm doing Move Fit warm ups. And I'm gonna have fights, you know, there. Like, so I have my big coolers now, or my big things that make the fight for me, you know, the lemonade dispensers and all
you got
that.
those.
Yeah. And so I had those
Ooh.
at the expo. So I mean, you can try it like on site at events coming up and everything like that. Cause again, it's like once people taste it, like, oh, this is actually really, like people at the expo literally would go try everything else. So they come back to me like, dude, like I need more of this. And I'm like, exactly. Like they're like, this is the cleanest one I've had today. It tastes like real to me. Like, you know, I feel
Yeah.
good. And I'm like, yeah, exactly.
So
Like,
do you feel, is it pre-workout? Like, what do you?
So yeah,
What do you call it?
It's an energy booster and mood enhancer.
Okay,
So
all
what
right.
it has in it is just your daily dose of vitamins and it's 0 calories, and then it has the equivalent of a cup of coffee. So basically, I wanted to replace coffee because I don't like coffee and wanted something that I could drink myself. And so when I was creating it, I was like, well, they were like, oh, the minimum order that you can do is like 250. And so if everyone wants to know the amount, then that comes out to like $5,000 minimum for per order. Okay, whatever. Actually, it's more like 6. But anyway, so I'm like, if I'm about to spend 6,000 on this, I gotta have other people drinking it. Like I can't just be the only one drinking it. So I was like, I'll give it to my clients, let them try it. Then they started loving it. Been drinking it for the past 3 years. Came out with strawberry a year later. But yeah, so I mean, I get it manufactured in Georgia, so in the U.S. You know, and all the different things. And so it's been great. And it doesn't have beta alanine in it though, so it's not a pre-workout. So you can use it before a workout and be fine, or do 2 scoops or whatever. But it's just clean, like type of energy. So you get from your vitamins and then a little bit of that caffeine.
Is it like how close to a nootropic would it be?
No, it has nootropics in it. Yeah,
Oh, it
so that's
does?
that's why it's a
So
mood
that's
booster.
that's what I think I would probably start calling it, is a nootropic.
Yeah, so it
Yeah.
has. So basically, so when people are like, it helps you with focus. It helps you. I mean,
'Cause
everything.
that's the question you get the most. I would
Yes.
Honestly,
wonder, right?
Dani, I
I bet
haven't-
if you put nootropic on it, there would be no confusion. Like,
Yeah.
Literally, I honestly, and I mean, I support you. I just
Yeah.
have looked at it and been like, what is it? I don't get it.
Yes,
And
yeah.
then hearing your explanation of it, because to me, it tastes like, oh, it's a Starbucks powdered refresher. Like,
Yeah.
But I mean, since I came off Adderall, like I'm super into nootropics now. And I
Yes,
do take thesis
Yeah.
and
So I've literally said to people that this is like basically, I mean, a better version of Adderall, because it does. It helps you be like, literally people are like, I cleaned my entire house with this.
You've never said that to me, because if you did, I would have been on it a long time ago.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
now I'm
Start- You'll
telling
have to
you.
beat people off.
It's Adderall substitute. It's
Yeah.
nootropic.
Plus, it's good for you. Like you
It's
get your
pre-workout
vitamins
without the tingle.
Yes.
It's a cup of coffee. It's a Starbucks refresher.
Yeah.
That's what they use, right?
There you
random
go.
tangent, but yeah, that's what I
Okay.
think. I mean,
A moon butt.
And-
We'll say moon butt.
And there we go. So
which is annoying that people like don't try it because they don't know what it is. Like that's why you try it. But,
Right.
But I think that if people had a word to go to, like, is it
Yeah.
an energy drink? Oh,
No,
it's not.
the-
Is it a pre-workout? And it's not. Okay, it's a neutro. Okay.
Okay.
With some
well,
energy.
Well,
in
that
it.
helps me. I mean, because like I said, I always want to know how I can like get it to the market and people understand what
Why
it
don't
is.
you make it a mocktail?
So-
Do some mocktail videos. Just pour it with some like
No.
apple mousse LaCroix.
Literally, that's what most of my girls like that don't drink anymore. They use it as a replacement. And then same thing with girls in prep, like there are guys in prep too. They'll drink it because it helps with like sweet cravings.
Oh, so it's a girl drink.
So, no, not a girl drink. Guys, strongman guys drink it. Like everybody has drank
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
except for you apparently. No, I'm just kidding.
I
But
have, but I don't drink. I mean,
yeah,
I literally drink coffee and water and a Diet Coke.
Yeah.
I shouldn't admit that, but and I had it when it first came out.
Yes.
But then I wasn't drinking anything pre-workout. Now I'm like, give me the pre-workout.
Yeah.
And the beta alanine.
yeah, and that's why I try to tell people, I'm like, you can accomplish, if not more in your day, by having this instead of having your pre-workout, your Adderall, all your things.
So does it have nootropic? Like, is nootropic?
That's what I'm looking
Is it just nootropic? Is like the mushrooms, right?
Yeah.
So what kind of mushrooms you got in here?
I'm not gonna go into the details of the
Oh,
nootropics.
excuse me, proprietary.
No,
blend,
you're
I'm
good.
sure.
It's a perfect. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
We can't keep giving away all the secrets, you know.
Okay.
But no. But
I'm just looking at my Ghost because literally earlier I was sitting here looking at the nutrition by chance, and because I like this because it is more of a supposed to be like it's an energy drink, but it's also nootropic based.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
reading the fact, and like your drink is like a very, very similar formula, but it's got more of what this has. Like it's like a better version of this.
exactly, it is a better version of that. Thank
But
you.
I'm saying like,
and it tastes
shoot,
better than Celsius, and it tastes
like,
better than
listen,
all the other.
Do you like Ghost because it's an energy drink, but it's nootropic based? Go line for line on your ingredients.
Yeah.
I mean, shoot, hold a Ghost can up and then go
Please
line
put
for line.
I feel so much better after I do use nootropics. I just
Okay.
feel like my brain feels
No,
less
exactly. And that's why I tell
congested.
like my mamas drink it, and like they'll be like, I'm so worn out, I can't get my workout in. I got my freaking toddler running around or whatever. I'm like, scoop a fight, and then like I'll tell people start their day with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it helps them like on everything, get their movement in, crush their day. But yeah, no, I'll make sure to
Maybe put some
Another
beta
one.
alanine in the next batch.
Oh my
like,
gosh.
I just love the tingle.
Well,
I
there's the
want my
thing
face to melt.
well, I could go to extremes, right? Because a lot of people want me to do a no caffeine one, right? So there's like a no caffeine, and then that way it's just like again, they have the vitamins, it's a health drink, things like that, and then you could do it. Yeah, so it's a good base in the middle. I think where everybody can kind of come together. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then yeah, but anyway, so we'll stay tuned. I just gotta get these sales up, and then I can
So
come out with more.
I think mocktails, like we can, you know, do a little video mixing them with some sparkling waters, you know.
Okay. I like
Yeah.
it. Well, back to everything else that we were talking about, you guys. Thank you for my fight segment. That was great. No, so I was going to talk about because, you know, you have been more open, I would say, about your faith and your journey, right? Would you?
Yeah.
Yeah. How is that going? Are you still feeling with the spirit? Or are you like?
Yeah, I think, you know, it's like turmoil in your life separates you from your faith, but it also brings you back to it. And I don't know, I think the last few weeks have been like interesting for me. It's just a lot going on.
Right.
And so I'm like moving more in that direction, but I think just with the world, it's like has me questioning everything.
Right.
And so I also think part of the reason I like deleted all the apps, got off all the stuff, because I had felt such a disconnect and been running on fear of like, what's going to happen in the world and not in the present. And because I mean, you find this false insecurity in thinking, you know, or like you're trying to preserve yourself and everything. And so, I mean, I would say I'm edging back in that direction. I think it just ebbs and flows like life. I'd like to say I'm always consistent, but I'm not consistent in anything. But yeah.
Well, the reason, something that you said right there that I do want to like talk about is that really what I have found by reading scripture more, and especially with all the health stuff that happened, you know, what I have noticed and everything that kept coming back in passage was that when you actually are going through struggle and you're suffering, you become closer with God, because then you understand kind of, you know what I mean? Like the actual, like the purpose, because if you look at any of the disciples, all of them went through immense struggle. Like none of the people that were even memorable in the Bible had an easy walk. You know what I mean? And that's where I kind of got my strength from over the last month, because I literally was like on that Stairmaster crying in the LYB because I got these results back and they were like, your liver's 4 times what it's supposed to be. Your kidneys are double. You have the kidneys of a 70-year-old. This is your body's failing, whatever. And it was like, okay, well, hold on. I went in for like a hormone panel to look at like, I don't have a cycle for the past 2 years.
Yeah.
So just to get more information about my journey. And then like newsflash or whatever, if you haven't watched my Instagram or know, like actually I'm not dying, so it's okay. Like we're good. Like it was a false read. So I knew that it was, but they're like, you gotta wait 4 months. You gotta take away all your supplements. Can't drink Fight. And like my guy just drinks Fight. She's like, can't have your Fight. I'm like, okay, thanks. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but I was like in a prep.
Yeah.
So everything was super like they could, I was like, guys, nothing has changed for the past 9 months. I just did blood work 7 weeks ago. this is not real, right?
Right.
But I sat there and cried because I was like, my entire way of living is to be my best and like have, fought for this. I'm sure you feel like that too with like your weight loss journey, like trying to love yourself more, you know what I mean? Like set a good example. And then you're going to tell me that. So I really was angry for a moment, cried that whole day and was like, man, and kind of had that talk with God where I was like, I don't understand, why is this happening, right? The whole moment of like, why is this happening to me?
Yeah.
And they're talking like, you're gonna have to go see a liver specialist, you're gonna have to do all this. I'm like, more awesome. I've already been seeing an eye specialist for all the messed up stuff that happened with the bodybuilding preps,
Yeah.
And anyway, and so when I get into that, I was like, okay, well, the first day without fight, and the first day without any of my other supplements, which I was taking because doctors had told me to. So, okay. So I take all that stuff away. And then, because I was like using something to help me sleep. I was using helping fight to help get me up in the morning. I was using other aids and they became idols. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So then taking that away, I'm like, God, like you're stripping everything away from me. Like literally, I have nothing. I don't like, I don't have any partners. Like I'm not trying to be like with them. I don't get relief from that. I don't have, I don't drink alcohol anymore. I don't do drugs. I don't have any, I'm trying not to abuse food. Right. So I don't have any outlet. Right. And I was like, you're literally taking the last things I had. Like, how dare you? Right. And then I sat there, and as the first day happened, I kind of had a headache, and I was like, okay, whatever. Made it through the day. The next day I went and did like legs. I'm like, wow, I did a leg workout without anything. Like I just woke up and then trained 13 clients. And then, you know what I mean? Like I was like, wow, I feel really powerful. I feel really strong. And as I continued to like inch my way through that month, it wasn't withdrawals. It wasn't deprivation. It wasn't whatever. I only felt like so empowered. I felt strong. I felt beautiful. I was just like, oh my gosh, like these things that you know what I mean? Like, and so all that to say, I know now the reason it happened was because God was like, hey, you got to course correct.
Yeah.
You're going down a path because I was going to do another show. He's like, you're going on this path. This is not what I have intended for you. And I knew, and I asked him for guidance. I was like, you got to take me out because I'm not going to quit anything. I'm not going to take myself out. And then to get those results, I immediately messaged my coach. I was like, hey, I'm done. Like, no. I'm gonna put my health first. I'm gonna actually go to sleep on my own and like have, actually sleep through the night, like, and did all that. And so all that to say, it seemed, like I was so far away, but it drew me back closer to him. Yeah. And that was a really beautiful moment. Yeah. And to put what was important, you know what I mean? So anyway, so it's just like perception changes based off of like what's around and not letting fear dictate.
Right. Yeah, and I think probably about a week ago, I realized the difference in how I was feeling, like how amped up I've been because I've been back in a state of, I need to control this. I need to be on top of this. This is all on me, versus about 2 months ago when I was like, I've just given it up for the Lord. Like I'm just like, my peace is there and just knowing that it's going to be taken care of. And I realized it's almost like you're in this period of turmoil, and then things start to go in the right direction, and then you start, putting yourself in the word. You don't go to churches frequently. You aren't as adamant about keeping a relationship with God at the forefront of your life because you start getting carried away and you're out of the turmoil and things seem to go smooth, and then it's just like the wave starts to crest and fold in on itself. And I realized like how that peace was kind of gone. And so, I mean, literally last night I was like, it was a very intense day. It was like one thing after the next. And like, I'm driving home like, oh my gosh. And I've started praying more in the last couple of days of like, I just need some resolve around this. Yeah. But I'm like, what is it? And then I finally got settled down. I'm like, okay, this and this are going to change. We're doing this. You need to think about doing that. Just kind of reset and center. So it's interesting to have this conversation right now because
Well, but I think that's also God playing a part in that, right? Because we've been trying to get together for this podcast, for a long time. And so, I mean, it's not a coincidence that it happened when you're going through this stuff, like when the state of the, the world is how it is. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's a reason. And so I think that that's another beautiful moment that like where he is his divine intervention in all of it, And so, I mean, and I think for me too, and it sounds like you, like you can get very just close, like that tunnel. And I don't know if that has to do with like the ADHD stuff, because with me as well, like I'll get so here. And then finally, like I need someone to pull me out And literally, but the thing is that nobody around me has ever shown that they can pull me out. You know what I mean? Like family. Like, I mean, people watch me get to my lowest with bodybuilding, but they're like, but Dani's just so inspired. Like, you're so inspired. Like, you can do it. You can, like, you got to do it for all of us. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And so it was like, nobody was going to say anything. And I get why they didn't, right? But I was like pleading for that on the inside. I'm like, someone just help me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it had to be him. He's the only one. And really the only one that matters, and the only one that could pull me out of that state. You know what I mean? And and for so long, I wanted that to be a partner. And think about how much pressure and how much resentment I would have had for someone if I was in a relationship with them, because that's a lot to ask. I'm basically saying, hey, what the Lord could do for me, I want you to do for me. They'd be like, whoa, like, hey. You know what I mean? Like, they'd be like, I'm great, but like also I can support, but like that's him. You know what I mean?
And you're absolutely right. If it was somebody else, you probably would have resentment over it, because I mean, that's a very intense thing to put yourself through. Like, I respect the dedication, but sometimes I look at people like 2 weeks out from prep, I'm like, what the hell are you doing to yourself? Because you look miserable.
Yeah.
But I get why you want to do it. Like, I commend it, but like, I don't know that I would have the strength or fortitude I'm not ever going to manage my macros like that. So that's totally out for me. Like, I'm never going to weigh out to the grams what I'm supposed to eat and then eat it. But yeah, I mean, something else has to pull you out of it, because it's hard when people see you do it, because they know how bad you want it, and they don't want, you know, to give you advice that steers you in a different direction because you're having a down moment.
But do you know what everyone said to me after the fact, or like people that I care about said to me? I don't care what everybody says, but they're like, Dani, like, you know, you don't have to do this, right? And I was like, well, what do you mean by that? Like, when you said that, and they're like, your brand and your mission, they're like, I would just like rock with it. Like, they're like, you don't have to, you know. I was like, yeah, but I'm a competitor and I want to be athletic. And again, I don't know what the future holds and whatever for stuff, you know, but it's just like, it was such a weird perspective that I had in a moment of like, again, fear, that it was like, you know what, let's go to here and like go on this end of things. So it was just cool that again, there was so much confirmation when I already knew that I didn't need to go through, but I did, you know, whatever. But that like everyone afterwards was like, yeah, like you do so much and you help so many people and you do all these things that like, you don't have to compete in bodybuilding to, you know, feel worthy or to feel whatever. And I was like, you know, like, it never was that I wanted to do it just for myself, but I think it started to get to that point where it was almost like, I don't know, it was just too much. Like, it was just for everything that I want to accomplish with the business, you know what I mean? And everything else that I want to do in my life and all that. And so, yeah. And like, no one came up to me ever and was like, oh, you do bodybuilding, so like, that's why I want to work with you. You know what I mean? It wasn't benefiting in any way. It was a lot of money, expensive, and it cost me my health, because now I always will have an autoimmune disorder. You know what I mean? So it's like, you learn from those things, which has been very powerful and has been great. But sometimes it's like, God's like, hey, I'm gonna let you sit there. Like, I'm gonna let you figure it out. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And it definitely, there's so many things that come down to what's going to rob you of your peace. I mean, I think the older you get, the more you realize like your peace is worth more than anything. And this entrepreneur mentality that's like more, scale. Like nobody tells you, okay, yeah, it's nice, but it robs you of your peace.
Well, and here's something that settles me down is that I have to be like, okay, because I do feel at peace with a lot of stuff now, and especially because I was like with the health scare that was like, okay, no, actually, like keep it back and be grateful for everything that you have. But when I really look at it, I'm like, what if we don't? Like, what if we, like, I've had Tyler on here, I've had so many entrepreneurs on here and whatever. And like, we sat there and, you know, everybody thinks like, okay, they will have $1 million business or this can happen or whatever. But here's the fact of it too, though. If nothing ever changed for me right now, like, and it was what it was, I'm okay with that. Okay. That does not mean that I'm not going to, now when this comes out, my book will already be like on Amazon for published so people can get it. But anyway, but like that, I won't continue to have more podcast guests. I won't continue to have more sponsors. I won't continue to keep training people and training more people all over the US. And then I won't have fight in more, you know, businesses and expand that and get more sales. Like, no, you can have both. You can be at peace with where you're at, but still want for more, but know that I don't need more. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, So that's where, but before it was like, no, like when I get there, like, nah, like low key, like I'll get there. It's like, no, every time, every walk of my life, everything I've done, I've just worked hard and stayed the course, and God's gotten me there in ways that I never even knew was possible. Like, do you think I ever would have thought that I would be able to train people out of my home gym and that it would be sponsored and somebody would do that for me? Like, and also, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but I did have ideas that I would want that, but I never even knew that could be a reality. But I was like, just keep working hard. Just keep on your path.
Right. And you kind of do a cost benefit analysis of like your piece versus what you want to do. And I think at first when you get started, it's like, well, I'm going to do this because that's what's going to get me to here. But there becomes a point where you're like, wait, I don't have to do that. Like, it's not actually what I want to do, but I can still have it in a different way, or it might look a little different. Not, you've got more options. It's not just trying to survive or just get by. It's like, okay, you have the options how you want to build that mountain. And, it might be super severe incline where you're going up and doing whatever you can, or it might be, gradually and stepped up. But I think that's what people all should realize is like, there's a lot of different ways you can make stuff happen and turn out a lot of different ways, but you ultimately have the choice in like how you get there and what you want to do with it.
100%. No, I love that. And as we're coming to a close, before we get onto our Patreon episode, talk about, some more things. I was going to say like, because I know that you, like we've talked about it before, but you've struggled with, kind of like being, and I struggle with it too, but not being resentful to the Nashville like community and stuff, but being like, okay, like as we talked about after the expo and stuff, how it was kind of like certain people that we saw like putting on, right? Like kind of acting a certain type of way and whatever. Like, how would you say that you are like, that you deal with that? Do you focus on, like for somebody listening that gets caught up in the Nashville, like all the drama, all the nonsense, like how do you kind of stay clear and stay on your path?
I think you got to realize you can't take stuff at face value because what you see doesn't mean is actually what's happening.
100%.
I was like a couple of weeks ago, just as an easier example, there was this mom I was talking to, and she, has 2 or 3 kids, is married, and she's like, I see these people roll up to the house or to the kids' school, and they're driving this, and they've got that, and they've got this big house up the street. Yeah. And and this is a person who doesn't have any debt. Like they live within their means. They make good money, but they don't have a bunch of. I'm like, you don't know what that car payment is. You don't know what, what this is, or that payment, or what's in the bank. Yeah. Like you don't. All you're seeing is like the end result of what somebody leveraged to get there. Yeah. And I think I didn't necessarily see what you're saying this time, as far as I think that. I didn't necessarily see it facade. I think more so in the past years, I've seen a facade, and because I've constantly compared myself to a few different people in different areas of my life. Right. But I will say that I think in the last couple of months, I've really seen like, okay, what I thought was going on over there is not really the case. Yeah. And what I was comparing myself to. And so I realized since the facade started to crumble and there was nothing behind it, for instance, somebody who who's always done well in real estate, but they've always chased easy money. Yeah. When I see these people who've chased the easy, shiny thing for so long, and then now I'm at a point where I'm seeing that start to crumble. And I mean, if you don't have a strong foundation, that's going to go away real quick. And I think that's something I've seen recently that kind of validated that for me. So I think it's just, you don't know what somebody else has got going on. Right. And just because the surface, the social media, those indicators say one thing is not the reality. Well,
and that's, again, more of a testament to why more people should be real with their journey. Because looking the part or like whatever, like, yeah, that's fine. But at the end of the day, by sharing your authentic self and by sharing your struggles, it's only going to help people more. You know what I'm saying? Right. And and again, it helps with the mental health side of things. It helps get out of this toxic nonsense of editing and all the, like I said, the put on and just like the grossness of it. And I feel like we're dealing with that in every aspect of life right now, with the election coming up and just like all the different things. And so it just added nonsense, and so that's why, like with my mission, I have always said that like when you can love yourself, right, you can then truly love others. And when you love your body, like that is a part of that, and so I ask everybody when they come on here in my little Love Your Body initiative, but what is something that you love about your body?
I literally earlier was like, she's going to ask me that question. That's going to be one of them. What's my answer going to be?
Yeah.
I would say my calves because, they've always been really nice because they carried a 365-pound dude around for years.
Yeah.
So didn't have to work very hard. They just like kind of showed up. So I really appreciate those.
Okay. I love that. No, that's huge. I love it.
Tell us about yours.
Oh, you want
Your
mine?
turn.
Well, today it's like everything because I was working out and I was just like, oh, my shoulders. So I was like, oh, my legs, and actually my calves too, which I've never noticed. But I put my phone down on the ground to like do some like lunges or whatever, and it like just was straight up calves, and I was like, where'd those come from? I'm like, oh, I've only been doing like hundreds of calf raises for all these weeks, right? But no, yeah, I love everything right now. I feel pretty good about it. But the best thing I would say is my upper body because I've put on muscle and stuff like that. So when I am working out now, I'm like, man, like, so I got some definition. Like, I feel very strong in that. Yeah, I don't know. At the end of the day, I'm just so thankful because one, I was getting kind of a little bit, like I said, with that prep and that mindset. So I get a little bit down on myself. And then now I'm like, no, like with everything, I'm just so glad. Because I knew that nothing was actually wrong. You know what I mean? I was like, that's false. Like, nah, I was like, skirt. Like the markers were not correct, but that's because I prayed about it. I was like, this can't be right. And so it's such a good feeling to know that like when your health is not there, people that can complain about luxury items, like that's so nice for them, right? Because if you don't have your health, you don't have anything.
Yeah.
Right? Like you don't have Clean Eatz. You don't have, your friends, your family. Like it's on you. Like, and so it's one of those things where that is, I've had to really look at it and be like, I'm healthy enough to do these things. Like, let's go. Like, let's enjoy all of it and do our best to actually like put ourselves out there and keep, having connections and kind of, like learning more in the, and reading more in the Word and all those things. And I will say too, and you probably know this already, but when all this was going on, I'd be sitting here and I'm like watching Netflix and I'm like, okay, turn Netflix off for a moment. Okay. Open up your Bible, like, or your, whatever you guys, read, if it's not the Bible, like a workbook or whatever it is. And I would just read even a few lines and be like, man, I feel so much better. And that was another moment where I think like God was being like, yeah, like I'm literally telling you, like, sit with me. Read like this is what, like, stop wasting away just thinking about these nonsense things and actually like be in it, and that's been something that's really helped me, and I know it's like against a time thing, but I've even looked up podcasts on Bible recaps and stuff, and I can learn that way too, and that's been really helpful, because we all love a good podcast. So, LYB, but yeah, so no, when it comes to loving my body, like I was thinking about the whole 7-year anniversary and stuff. And like, it always seems so silly to people, and when I first started out, and I know how it came across, and I watched these videos on my phone of me talking, and like, I remember I would call myself an activist. Like, I was like, I'm a body positive activist. Like, I was out here in the streets, like before the signs were a thing, you know what I mean? And I'm like, LYB, and people are like, we don't care. And literally, and having to continually like push that and be like, because when you love yourself and you love your body, you can help other people and genuinely, and then you come up and you show up more authentically. Like, it's such a bigger picture than people understand. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like some of my girls have gotten out of bad relationships, right? And were not able to before because they weren't confident enough and didn't love themselves enough. Yeah. You know what I mean? Some of my men have been able to then be better husbands. Some of and people setting example for their kids. Like, it's so much bigger than just this notion. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so anyway, so I'm just like really proud of it. And, and I'm excited to watch your business grow and to watch you grow more in your faith and as everything you're doing. And I think it is inspiring. And you got to know too, that with the comparison thing, there are people right now that listen to this and they're like, man, like, I'm so glad he was real about it, because I've been watching all his stuff. And I thought maybe that they were comparing themselves to you. You know what I mean? Yeah. And maybe now you're like leveled it up to them to be like, hey, actually, like, it's going to be a hard struggle, but I'm still going to keep fighting for what I want.
Yeah, no, I have all the same stressors. I mean, I stress about money. I stress about employees. I have days where I feel like everything's going wrong, and and what the facade somebody sees is, only 5-10% of the story. I mean, there's I think you just got to realize everybody's going through it. Everybody's going to have the struggle, but through the struggle, you find the greatest strength.
Oh my gosh. And that's true. And so everyone listening to the Love Your Body podcast, thank you so much for always tuning in and checking out Will on all his stuff. And if you want to see more, we're going to have a Patreon episode here after. So make sure to check out. All right. See you guys. Until next time.